Hey, what's up, everybody? So this week I flipped another orchestral piece. This is Mozart's Symphony number 40 in G minor. So you guys know how we do it. First, we'll take a listen to it, and then we'll talk about it on the flip. All right, let's get to it. Hey, what's up, guys? So before we get into the breakdown, I hope that you can tell from my videos that I really have a heart and a passion for teaching. If you're in a place right now where you'd like to level up as a synth composer, I'd love to help you. I've had numerous placements on CBS Sports, TNT, True TV, Netflix, NBA TV, Discovery, Food Network, Eurosport, and placements in Japan, France, Denmark, Germany, and counting. I offer coaching and consultation, and you can schedule it right on my website. Just look for the link in the description on my channel. Go to the services tab and schedule an appointment. All right, let's get back to the video. Okay, so there you have it. Mozart's Symphony number 40 in G minor. So I'm going to show you guys just a little of what I utilized to, get this and figure out the melody and the harmony. So I actually had a recording that I pulled into my DAW. So this is just a little of the recording that I used. Okay, and then on the second half of this is where you will hear the harmonies change. So that is kind of, was the basis, if you will, that I utilized. So one thing that I did after that, the next thing I did is, and I would suggest that you guys do the same, is I created myself a piano sketch. So I would remember what the harmonies were, and then of course make sure that I was playing the melody correctly. So this is my little piano sketch. Okay, and then this is my sketch of the part with a harmony change, which is just beautiful writing. Okay, so there. Once I had that, then of course it's just kind of figuring out how we're going to, frame out the entire piece or whatever. So, what I did is I decided to kind of go with my the melody, kind of as I figured Mozart did it. It sounded, because I heard this kind of harmonic ostinato thing happening in the low strings. I assumed that he was using first and second violins. It sounded like that's what I heard. So I did the same, and I gave the melody to the first and second violins, and then I kind of doubled up the legato with a marcato just to get a little more definition. So basically, it's just first and second violins in octaves, and kind of out by themselves, they don't sound the greatest, but I think it sounds really good with everything in. So this is first and second violins. So yeah, you have it there. Cinematic Studio Strings is what I am using, and like I said, I just have a the legato articulation and the marcato, and then you can kind of see my CC11 and my CC1, in terms of how I try to just express those notes, and then for my low strings, so for my viola and cellis, I heard this little kind of pulsing that was a melody. I'll play this for you again real quick. So that so it sounds to me like might just be violas. I'm not sure, but I use the violas and the cellos, and what I have is this here. Okay, and let's see which articulation I'm using for that. So it's staccatissimo articulation for, and of course Cinematic Studio Strings as well. And then I am using my favorite low strings, which is the this Abbey Road 1 legendary low string. It just sounds so good to me. So I have this happening here. You hear how I'm kind of accenting it. You can kind of see it there, the red. I have mine colored, so you can tell by the color where a little more accent is happening. So, and then what I did, just to give it a little more definition, is I layered it with a guitar, electric guitar, really low. Sounds like this. Okay, and then if we add it with the viola and cellos. And then I also added a sub bass. And the sub bass is just obviously to help reinforce the bottom, but and then to give it that hip hop, kind of vibe. Because again, I mean, we're flipping it to epic orchestral hip hop, so we kind of need that as well. So here is it with the sub bass layered in. Okay, and just some little fun things to do, like I said, just to give it that orchestral hip hop kind of vibe. Okay, so that's pretty much the strings and kind of how we treated the melody. And the only other thing you'll see here is when we got to the harmonies, I brought in then of course all the strings, well, the cellos, up to the violins to kind of play that harmony that's happening there. And it's like I think a E flat 7 to a D7 or E7 to an E flat. I can't remember, but it's a really cool harmony that he does there to get to that 5 chord. And let's see, I'll tell you what he did. Yeah, E to E flat to D. Really, really cool there. And what we have there is this. And then of course we add the low in there with it. So really, really, really just beautiful harmonic language there by Mozart. Okay, so next let me show you what I did with my brass. So they don't even come in until the fifth bar. I have just some low brass, of course, Pandora Master low brass. Hey guys, sorry about that. Cubase decided to crash, so give me just a minute to fix some things and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so we're back and we're gonna pick right back up where we were with me showing you what the brass is doing. So first, I'll start with my low brass, and I just have Pandora and Master low brass, and they don't come in until that fifth bar. I believe it is. Where do I start? 1, 2, 3. Yep, in the fifth bar. So they come in here. So you understand what's happening musically. So we got this. So again, that's the first place that our low brass is introduced, and they're just doing this. And just really supporting the low end there. And then the trumpets come in 2 bars after that, just to add a little punch to what's going on. And I'm using the Hollywood Pop brass staccatos and marcatos. So I'll play the low brass and then you hear the high brass. So just adding a little punch there. So now when we come back in to bar 14, which will be, the 9th bar, I believe, we come back with the theme. And now what happens in my brass is I introduce this horn counterline, which is this here, and you're just using center brass horn, horns, and I have a short and a long horn, but we have this. Okay, yeah, the horns, they just sound beautiful, but I think let's listen to them in context. So listen to that counter line in context of what we have happening there. So here we go. All right, so that's what we have with our horns. It sounded like the volume was a little loud, so let me check that. Yeah, I think something is going on there because my volume is pushed all the way up. But all right, but we'll keep moving. So the next thing I want to show you is my synth. Because I did add a synth in here, sometimes just, for some additional pacing, an additional pulse. So I am using, let's see, Omnisphere, of course, and I need to update it, but I'm using Anthem of Happiness. This is a synth that I like in Omnisphere. I use it, quite a bit. And it's doing this at bar 14. So this is where the theme is playing. Da, 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 da. Okay, and then if you add that with the low strings, you get this. So it's really nicely kind of helps support that without the same movement, but still, just giving some nice pulsing. And then, of course, we have, some tam-tams kind of just, at our transition points or whatever. And basically, what I did is I just rendered them out to audio. So I just rendered the MIDI out to audio for the tam-tams and just lined them up or whatever. But just transitional stuff, And then, of course, we always have to have, some risers and things of that nature just to help us. So the riser working with the tam-tam at a transitional element. So kind of how they work together. And then if we listen to that in context of the music. Just to get us, into that next theme. So, and then I think the only other things that I need to show you would probably be just the drums. So, just kind of typical group. I'll play everything, even the timpani, and the tubular bells. But these are what's happening in my drums. As you see, I'm very aggressive. With my timpani, I just, love a timpani. To me, just adds so much when we're doing orchestral hip-hop. So I just love using it, and I'm kind of aggressive with my timpani. So let's listen to it in context. So you hear, though, in the mix, it's not, overbearing or crazy or anything, but it does really add a nice support to the bottom end and support more so with punches, just really solid punches, as opposed to anything else. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the instrumentation. So I think one of the most important parts of kind of flipping anything, like you flipping these pieces for orchestral hip hop, is the form, and how we do that. So one thing that you will notice in listening to this is I just really utilize the main theme. That's pretty much what I'm using for this piece, not the entire symphony or anything like that, but the main heart of the theme, and then the main harmonic language. So in terms of form, so what I do is I immediately introduce the theme with the violins, just like Mozart did, so it sounds familiar. And in this regard, not too big for the first 4 bars. So he came in, really just kind of stating the theme, and it's not really big and overbearing yet. So just kind of what he did. So, just kind of understated. So I tried to mirror that, but it's still hip hop. So, but if you listen to the first 4 bars from a structural standpoint, sort of the same thing, because I just have a clap, a backbeat, so we understand, kind of, where we are, in terms of groove or whatever, but not real big. And I think, just a pedal with my lowest, with my sub bass, even though I do have some movement with the orchestral, with the contrabass and the guitar. So here's what we have in that first 4 bars. And you hear now, getting into bar 5, you hear that little snare fill, and then we'll have a tam-tam as well from a transitional standpoint to get us into now the second half of that phrase, and it gets a little bigger as well. And then of course you hear the tubular bells kind of hitting right on there. So let's listen to now the next 4 bars, and feel how it just layers a little more for the next 4 bars. So that's it. Now so that's our first theme. So now when we come back to the theme for the second time, and now it's bigger. So it's bigger. We're now full groove. We have our low brass in, and now we have our horn counter as well, and we're pretty much the same harmonies. And that secondary harmony that I showed you, and I'll remind you of that, I don't use that yet. Mozart immediately goes to that harmonic change, but I want to save that for later in the piece, just to build some interest. So we're still using the same harmonies from the first half, except I took a couple of liberties, but nothing really outside of changing it up too much. So here's the second half of the theme. And then we're setting ourselves up to go into a breakdown. And so hang on just one sec, guys. I'm gonna get you to this screen over here. So because my horns for some reason aren't, you see here, I have, no, you can't see that. I'm trying to make sure you can see what I'm, looking at here. Let's do this. There we go. Okay. So here I have my horns set to this VCA. So they should be mirroring whatever this is doing. And you see it says horns, but for some reason they aren't mirroring what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm gonna have to unlink them. Okay, and then I'm not really sure why they're not reading what I have set. I'm just pulling back some and then link them back. And see if that will fix it. I don't know why it's doing that, but that VCA should be controlling the volumes, and they should be moving with the fader. So let's see now if they are, and if not, we'll just keep moving. Let's see. Okay, so we got that fixed. Yeah, they're moving back with the fader. Not exactly sure what was going on there, but yeah, just wanted to fix that. Okay, so so we come out of that theme for the second time, and now we're into a breakdown. So again, form, we got theme kind of understated, theme bigger, boom, to a breakdown. So the breakdown, basically, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of pedaling on G minor for the most part for this breakdown, and it's not a whole bunch going on. I kind of scale my drums back a bit, and I really scale back my strings. I just have my low strings kind of doing this little motif, and then the strings kind of layer on the second half, but the first half, so let's talk about, first of all, getting into the so the way we get into the breakdown is with this little and so just like this 1-4 kind of thing going on there, and then like my low, you know, my bass is so just pedaling over that one, and then if we add our sub bass, not a whole bunch going on. And so if I play everything there, so you see all we have is some low brass, you know, just kind of hitting that root and coming off. We have a timpani just hitting, you know, on the root, the tubular bells, and then, like I say, a scale back drum groove. So this is everything for the breakdown, and then I'll keep playing it, and you'll notice on the second half of the breakdown, just to get here, we layer in violin 2. So let me let you hear that. And then on the next, or I should say the third bar of the breakdown, we layer in violin 2. And then on the fourth bar of the breakdown, we layer in another layer of violin 1, just to continue to build interest in this particular section. So here we go. Just those strings so you can hear how they layer. So there you have, kind of the layering. So 4 bars of just the low strings, 2 bars of layering up violin 2, and then 2 bars of layering violin 1 on top. All right, so this is the entire breakdown with everything. Okay, and then the only other thing that I want to show you is I have this little synth thing going on that's kind of just, I don't know, just a little kind of counter to what's going on there. Just a little thing that the synth is doing there, okay? So then the next part of the form is we are back to our theme. Now, of course, when we come back to the theme, now I add the trumpets in to the melody, and now I switch to that other harmony that Mozart did. So I'm going to remind you of his harmony, kind of what he did, and then I'll show you what I did there. So on the first half of the theme, you've heard it, and then let me see where he comes in on the second half. So coming up here. So he basically gets goes into B flat major. You hear how he ends on that B flat major instead of the G minor. So when I now come back in to the theme after that breakdown, I do the same. So that's coming in here. So now, excuse me, when we come in here with the theme, we add trumpets to make it different, right? And then we also change the harmonies. And then just really listen to what the horns are doing as well. It's a really nice counter that they're playing against it. Okay, and then so you notice I also treat the second half of that differently. I pull the trumpets out totally for the entire second half, and I don't have them doing the punches going into this breakdown. So they just do a little of the melody, the first half of the melody, then they're out. So now we're back to our breakdown again. Excuse me. And here you'll notice that I change the breakdown slightly harmonically again, just to make it a little different from the first breakdown. You always want to try to do something different. If it's rhythmic, if it's harmonic, if it's layering, just something different within the sections, just to continue to create interest and to have each section sound just a little different. So this is breakdown number 2, and then listen how I change it harmonically. And basically what I do is I kind of make it feel like we might go to B flat major within the breakdown, but we never really get there. I kind of get to the 5 of B flat, but then I go right back to that G minor. So listen to this section. Okay, so now we got you here. We have a slight edit point before we get into our theme again, right? We hear that pop, 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 and it's just a very quick edit. But I leave everything open there before we have the pickup, the bop, 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 bop. So let's just listen to that edit. So totally open, gives the editor an opportunity to cut right there if they want to. Now, coming back to the theme for the last time, this time I opened the theme up. In terms of open means I kind of remove the rhythm and we're just punching, hitting on ba 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 ba, and I totally change up the harmonies here. So I just wanted to do something totally different harmonically. So let's listen to the first 4 bars of what I did, and then I'll show you what I did. Okay, so we kind of suspend things there. We open them up. So basically what I'm doing there is, let's bring up my piano. Is it up? Yeah, so what I'm doing there is I'm going ba ba ba. So the 1, G minor. Then I walk down to the flat 7. So it's 1 over flat 7. Ba, 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 which is an E flat major 7, except we're going ba, ba. So E flat major 7 to a C minor 9. Okay? Ba, 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 ba. So we're going back to that E flat major 7, ba, 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 C minor 7. Ba ba ba, and that change there. That's a A minor 7 flat 5. So it's a half diminished 7 chord that I go there. So ba 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 ba. But now I have to get back to. He goes to a C minor 7 chord. Ba, 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 on that. So I have to get back there. And the way that I get back is I just do a really quick 2-5 movement. So I do a D7 to a G7 ba, 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 to get us to that C minor. So if I play it all in time, you got, and I won't sing this time. And that's how we get back to, and that 2-5, then we go back into rhythm for the second half of it. So I'll play it out for you this time. So we go open, and then you guys hear, I just explained to you the chord changes that I'm using. Then we get back into the rhythm and back into the melody with the trumpets and the violins now carrying the melody. So now the final thing that I do, let me show you. Also in this section, my synth becomes super important because I'm really laying on those chords there. So it just really kind of helps undergird everything with the synth. That's why I love using synth in these types of things. So I just wanted to point that out to you. So the only other thing that we have happening now before we get to the button is I add these hits in there. And it was pretty common during the period, you know, where you would always you would oftentimes, let me get to my piano, hear them, they would do like a 1-5 kind of thing. That kind of thing. But what I do is I just stay on the 5 chord for my hits. So if we come here, we have this. So we have those hits. We have a little, some little string arpeggios, kind of going on there. So against the hits, our strings are doing this against the hits. So just, typical type of stuff that you will hear. And then as always, guys, we want to make sure, right, that we end on a nice solid button as well. So, really kind of, I think, simple and kind of, straightforward look at, how to flip these types of things. Again, the whole thing is you're not necessarily concerned about taking the entire piece and flipping it, but you're more so, hey, let me grab the main parts of this thing that everybody's going to identify with, and then figure out how pretty much to do a remix of it. And then, how I can still kind of make it interesting, as I kind of take all these pieces and flip them around and, add in breakdowns and whatever, and do some, as we like to say in the 52 Qs community, some harmonic shenanigans, or whatever. So, again, so I hope this was helpful. Hope it was interesting. I know some people are purists, as it relates to classical music, and you may not like, folks kind of messing with the music of the masters, but I think it's a great way to just, add some, some new interest or whatever, and maybe, touch some folks that may not, have an interest, in classical music. And then I think as a composer, it's an awesome way kind of to get inside of the mind of some of these great composers and just, oh my gosh, hear the beautiful harmonies and melodies and things, that they use to create these pieces that will live forever. So, again, hope this was helpful. Thanks for hanging out with me. As always, please, if you like, the content, or you find the content helpful, please please subscribe, and then if you think it'll help somebody that please share it with them. That all of that, it's helpful. It's helpful to me, and then mostly hopefully it'll be helpful to you as well. So as always, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate you. Peace and God bless.